only gets better with age. 60 years later and countless milestones achieved, we're still not satisfied. Where innovators come to play and leaders come to grow. We're here to make history. Now write it. This is the House of Supreme, where your customers are regulars, your coworkers are family, and your standard of excellence is unparalleled. You feed people's appetites, as well as their spirits with different. Whether they're super fans, drive-through veterans, or even the I'm just here for the nacho fries. You bring the heat. You show up for customers and for each other. Morning, noon, and night, even late night. This is the house that you build. The House of Supreme.
All right. Everybody's hungry now, right? I wish I had Mexican pizzas and nacho fries for everyone. I'm sorry. I don't have any of those with me. But I am very excited to be here. I feel
I think just
super
couple
loud.
of more minutes good, and then
Uh-oh. Okay.
okay.
Hopefully not too loud for you guys. Well, good morning. I'm Kelly McCulloch. I'm the Chief People Officer at Taco Bell, a longstanding Yum employee. Yum owns KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and the Habit Burger, and I've been there for almost 17 years, but with Taco Bell now coming up on 3 years. So I'm very excited to be here today to talk to all of you about the importance of creating a positive digital experience for frontline workers. And I'm going to share some of the tools and the tricks that we've come to use over the last few years, particularly for our non-remote teams, right? Our frontline workers in our restaurants. So as you saw in that video, our team members on the front line are critical to the success of our business, and that's why putting our people first is something that we value so deeply at Taco Bell. We've always had a passion for people. We talk about a people-first approach in just about everything that we do, but that's never been more important. We also have an incredible partnership with our franchisees. So we've been the top franchisor the last 2 years running. And credit to those who lead our franchise organizations. We are 99, that's not true, we're probably about 95, 96% franchised here in the US. About 7,000 restaurants, and we own about 460 some odd of those restaurants. Everything else is franchised, and so we work very closely with those partners. And it's great to have partners who care about people as strongly as we do from a corporate perspective, from a brand perspective. And when we talk about caring for people, I don't just mean pay and benefits, right? That's table stakes. Everybody's looking at that these days and trying to figure out how we can make that better. What I mean is truly going above and beyond to ensure that your employees feel heard, supported, and empowered to ignite positive change. But before we get into how we're navigating all of this complexity that we just talked about, I want to level set and kind of go back to how in the world did we get here, right? What was happening at Taco Bell? So obviously, the pandemic put all of us in a really unique position, and it created hybrid work, as we've talked about, for so many people. But at Taco Bell and for every other food service company, we've always had people on the front lines. And so for them, remote work was never an option. And that meant a dual challenge for us, and particularly for our executive team, for our human resources team. Because on the one hand, we had to quickly create this effective virtual workplace for our corporate staff. But on the other, we had to figure out, and very quickly, how to ensure a safe workplace for our frontline staff. So we got super intentional about looking at things through this people first lens that was put to the test, right? You're gonna put out there that we're people first. Well, show me that you are, especially in this pandemic. So we got really intentional, and initially it was all about, how do we keep our people safe and supported? And it impacted everything from our hours of operation to the way that we train and so much more. How do we take care of people? How do we provide them support outside of the restaurant? And how can we actually make sure that we are looking to keep them engaged and inspired in the midst of all of this hardship? That was a big deal to us. So this is more important than ever before, because while the restaurant customers are coming back, you guys are all coming back and you're still ordering and either getting it delivered or coming into the restaurants, the labor force is not, right? The staff is not. We're still short-staffed in some of our restaurants. And so this adds a lot of pressure to an already busy restaurant environment. But the good news is technology is a huge enabler for us, and I'm excited to share with you today how Taco Bell is using technology to help our frontline workers thrive in two specific areas. I'm going to talk about training. I'm going to talk about communication. So first up in training. So we've made a lot of format improvements. Just a few years ago, it would not have been unusual, and it would have been accepted to have, a 20-minute training session, which doesn't seem like that long. That's an episode of Schitt's Creek. No big deal. Fine. 20 minutes, right? Done. That is not going to work anymore, especially for Gen Z, which is what a lot of our restaurant employees are. So because they're moving faster than ever, and because we've got, platforms like TikTok, right, that reign supreme, we started to ask ourselves, how can we create effective training that's simple, fast, and dare we even say, entertaining? So we can only show a snippet because we can't give away all of our secrets, but let's take a look at this video here. You guys can
How to make the Mexican pizza. First, place Mexican pizza shell into dedicated tray. Then, place 1 red disher of beans and spread. Then, add 1 portion of seasoned beef in a line. Now place a second Mexican pizza shell on top and twist.
Okay, that's all you get. Who knew about the twist, right? Who knew? You got to spread the beans and the ground beef around a little bit. But how fun is that video, right? You can hear the music in the background. It's totally TikTok style. This is what our Gen Z employees are used to. So we've actually taken what we call our experience training, or our window when we're running a promotion. We've taken that down to 3 minutes. That's how quickly we can get somebody trained. And it's just a more interesting video, right? It's a lot of fun. Our team members enjoy it. We're kind of speaking their language, which is great. So we have also enabled easier access to training. So you all know frontline employees are not behind desk, right? They're not at home in their office, in their apartment, at their kitchen table. They're out on the front line. They're actually on the line making the food. And so we realize that the best place for them to train is right where they are, right where that action is. So instead of asking them to go to what we call the back of house and, get behind the one computer we have back there in the manager's office, which is like the corner, and there's a lot going on. Instead of asking them to go back there to learn about, where all the ingredients are, we actually decided to leverage what was right in front of them so that their learning can be hands-on, faster, and much more effective. And so we said, okay, here's our restaurant. You guys can see this on the screen here. What existing screens can we leverage? And the reality is the answer right there. It was literally right in front of our face. So this is what we call our kitchen display monitor in food service. And it's where all the orders pop up, right, for these workers on the line as the orders come in. It's the obvious choice for training. And you can see that, when we've got that video playing, you can see it comes through. You can color code things. You can double click and pop up the job aid. Gosh, I mentioned I'd been around for 17 years in food service. That was not happening back in the day. That was a card on the line. It was like, oh, take all those cards down, put those new cards up. If you change the recipe, if we have to change the way we make it, take all those cards down, put the new ones up. So this is just a much easier and faster way for us to change, whether it's a new product we're putting in or changing the process for how we make a product. It's on the screens right there in front of their face, which is great. But so we talked about access, but we also want to talk about how do we make it just easier in general, right? It can't just be easy. It almost needs to be easier than easy, right, for our employees. And no matter how fun and sexy and cool your content is, if the technology that it lives on is cumbersome, you're going to frustrate your employees, right, especially Gen Z. They're not going to stand for it, actually, and they're going to leave. So at Taco Bell, we're trying to remove as many layers, clicks, and redirects as possible. And our goal, and we are very close to launching this, is that a team member can log into our internal portal and they can see the most important content right away on the landing page, no clicks necessary. So it would tell them things like, what training have I personally already completed? What training is due that I need to be thinking about? And all of that's going to be displayed in a simple manner with no more guesswork. And similarly, a manager can go in and they can look in one single view and see the status of their entire restaurant team's training progress. So those are some of the ways that we're leveraging technology to ensure the best possible training experience for the brand's frontline workers. Training, though, is table stakes, right? There are a few things from a human resources perspective that we can have brand standards or that we're contractually obligated to do with franchisees because of joint employer. One of those is training. We will provide training. That's table stakes, like I said. We also know that frontline team members deserve to feel connected to the brand in deeper ways. And honestly, in my opinion, this is where Taco Bell really shines, and I'm really proud of this work. This is where communication comes in. I'm a big advocate for communicating, over communicating, sharing as much as we possibly can, being as transparent as we possibly can. So let's talk a little bit more about the importance of communication. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, and all of you fully recognize that communication is key when it comes to employee engagement, employee satisfaction. We like to think about communication at Taco Bell serving three purposes: to inform, to engage, and to inspire. And I'm going to talk about each one of those. So we're going to start with inform. The brand's team member portal is called My Taco Bell, and it is our single source of truth for brand information. So it is truly a one-stop shop for team members, franchise owners, operators in the Taco Bell system, whether they're franchise, corporate. It's a site that houses everything. So brand training, news, toolkits, reports, people and career growth recognition stories, brand perks like education opportunities, and the teams can even purchase Taco Bell swag from the taco shop if they want to show off their brand pride. So we have exciting news that we've just shared with the organization. We're in the middle of a soft launch or a slow rollout of a My Taco Bell app so that employees, franchisees, and owners and operators have access to all of this information on their phones, in their hand. So on the screen above, can we play that video again? This is the My Taco Bell app. There we go. And I'm going to walk you through some of these features. So you can see here, right, kind of, hey, what's super important? We just recently, obviously, had the hurricanes in Florida, so we had disaster relief front and center. Oh, wait, we've moved. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm trying to reorient myself. There we go. Okay, so you're going to log in. Face ID, huge, right? My hands are dirty. I'm busy. I can't. I need my Face ID to work. I'm on the line, and I log in. You can see the disaster relief here, right? Because that was top of mind. There's perks. Here's what's coming up in terms of the next window and experience that we're launching. There's recognition on here as well. And as you can imagine, like this is a lot of work, right? And one of the biggest hurdles was working with our cross-functional partners to ensure that the access level to content was appropriate for specific audiences, right? Because a team member needs to see something different than a restaurant general manager or a franchise owner. So we had to work through that. But I mentioned the facial recognition was a huge piece of making this as easy as possible. And we do have the potential for push notifications in the future. So we're super excited about this. The importance of the My Taco Bell site and now the optional app is just, it's known across the organization. It's a little bit of a joke, like, well, where can I find that My Taco Bell? Okay, and you said you were going to put that where? My Taco Bell. So it, everybody kind of knows this is the place. And while it took us a little while to get there, particularly to think about audience and what was the appropriate content that they could see, it was actually a pretty easy sell because everyone is so familiar with My Taco Bell being kind of the one-stop shop. So our system uses that daily, if not several times a day. And why wouldn't they want to access it on their phone as they're out and about? Again, frontline workers are not behind a desk. They're out in the restaurants. We call them above restaurant leaders. They're in their cars. They're on the phone. We want them to be able to have this information easily accessible. So then when they get on the app, how do we engage with them? And you saw some of it here in the video, but as you can imagine, having a direct from corporate to team member app, it unlocks a whole new world of engaging team members. And here are some examples. There is a share recognition feature, and this champions the brand's courageous people, and it's a huge part of our culture, right? Recognition is a huge part of who we are. We celebrate the achievements and the contributions of others, and we ultimately, it increases camaraderie amongst the teams. And so you can see in the video here just how that comes through. In 2021, when the labor shortages were severe, we actually saw more recognition submissions than ever before across the system, which is a testament to how the digital tools that we have can help bring our teams together, especially when times are tough. And with the new update that you're seeing here on the screen, it's even easier to submit the recognition. So we've had over 200 submissions for recognition in 7 days. That is a true testament to Taco Bell's culture and how important it is to continue to modernize all of those efforts. It's a huge deal for us. Okay, so we talked about how employees, when they are informed, it helps them feel confident in their ability to do their job successfully. We talked about how engaging them gives them a reason to love their job. But there's one more ingredient to effective communication, and that is to inspire. And this is my personal favorite because this is where Taco Bell is very on brand, and we go a little cuckoo, and I love it. So at Taco Bell, we talk about this idea of restless creativity. Restless creativity. It's rooted in the belief that we should always be pursuing new ideas and that those ideas come from everywhere. So restless creativity is how we inspire each other and how we get inspired from one another. And you better believe we include our frontline workers when we talk about this. Now, it's interesting, this idea that Brian shared about how leaders today need to accept that they don't have all the answers, right? We don't. Even our executive team talks a lot about how we don't know how to solve that problem, but guess what? Somebody out there will know how to solve it. So let's go ask them to help us solve it. So I'd like to share a story. In 2020, we launched a program called Internal Incubator, and it was built on the notion that good ideas come from everywhere. Internal Incubator gathers employees from all levels and all areas of the business, and we come together and they go after a business challenge. And that challenge usually is something totally outside their swim lane. And that's kind of the point, because again, we believe that good ideas come from everywhere. I'll give you an example. The very first one that we did was all about how do we maximize our culture in a hybrid world, okay? We picked that one because it was HR, my world. It was easy. We didn't have to go sell that in. We said, this is the one we're going to do. And then the org came to us after the first one and said, hey, would you solve this problem for us? What about disruptive value from a consumer perspective? What does that actually look like? And how do we make it so valuable that it's almost irrational? And people just jumped at the chance to be a part of trying to solve that. So as part of the program, we don't just bring people together and say, hey, guess what? We have a business challenge. We need your help. Get into groups and come up with ways to help us solve it. We actually give them some professional training in the design thinking process, and then they are guided on a brainstorm blitz where they're encouraged to come up with solutions that are bold and oftentimes seemingly impossible. So we hire a guy that's worked with us for a while. He's a former Disney Imagineer. And it's so much fun, right? Because these teams come together, this group of people says, hey, I want to be a part of that. They come in, they get trained. They can actually include that as part of their personal and professional development, right? Like, I know how to brainstorm in a more effective way now. And that is such a good experience for them. So it's about an 8-hour commitment over several days. And you know, when we launched it, we were still early on in the pandemic, and so everything was done entirely on Zoom. And while 8 hours on Zoom is pretty normal for a corporate employee, figuring that out for frontline employees, that's a whole new set of challenges. So we had to think through how we could do that. We had to think through what devices are actually available in the restaurant. The restaurant's not actually a great place to be doing virtual training. So it would have been easier to just keep this in the corporate office, but we didn't want to. We knew that the right thing to do was taking it to the field. And so with some creativity and diligence, we actually secured some training tablets. We shipped out some noise-canceling headphones. We worked through a ton of logistics, and we launched a virtual internal incubator event exclusively for frontline corporate employees in those restaurants that I mentioned that we own. And they were focused on ways to enhance recognition. And so the feedback was super positive. But yeah, no worries. So I just want to show you real quickly a video from Internal Incubator that we did in person. This is the first one that we did in person. And what we did is we asked the group to come together to help us solve this challenge, which was how do we become the best employer in QSR? So you can see the video here of the groups coming together. We invited team members to join us from around the country. They flew in. They were part of a panel discussion, so they got to help us solve this. And then this culminated in an in-person event where the corporate employees got to vote on the winning idea. I'm not going to tell you what the winning idea is because I don't yet know how we're going to execute it, but we're going to figure it out. It was pretty bold. So that's Internal Incubator. I think, you know, just in the interest of wrapping up, what I would say is that we have a saying at Yum and specifically, you know, at Taco Bell that the customer experience will never exceed that of the team member. The customer experience will never exceed that of the team member. So we try to focus quite a bit on taking care of our frontline employees. We're using more technology and digital than we ever have before to do that. And, it comes back to what Brian said in the intro around finding leaders that can help bring that out in our frontline employees. We don't have all the answers. How do we engage them more? How do we make it as easy for them as possible? So with that, I just want to say thank you for having me this morning, and hopefully there's something in there that inspires you and that you can take back to your organization. So, thanks.